Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to today's video. We are doing Mercury direct all signs. So today we're going through what Mercury direct means for all signs of the zodiac, all 12 signs. You can watch your sun, moon, and rising. I have a couple announcements and then we'll jump right into the signs. Actually, one main announcement, and that is I have a new little mini course on the North and South Node. It's called the Nodes Two Ways. That's because in this little mini course, I go over the meaning of the North Node through the signs in two systems. Okay, and so it's on sale right now through tomorrow night. So check out the link that's pinned in the comments to get your copy of this course, to get in on it before the rate goes back up. I actually think, I want to tell a little sort of story about this. What happened was I learned the North and South Node in modern astrology. Some of you may have found me through one of my North Node videos. And I found that was like right when I first learned astrology, and I was enamored with the North Node and I was so, into it. But that what I found in practice when reading charts is that modern framework, I just couldn't make it work. Like it didn't, I'm not saying it doesn't work for some people, but it just wasn't as helpful. So I learned a second way to read the nodes, which is the Vedic or Western way, which is like basically the North Node is increase, South Node is decrease, but there's a way to kind of interpret this. And that's what I tell you in this course. So it gives you a new perspective, not a one to replace the old one, but two perspectives from totally different lenses that can coexist and just give you more information about you and what makes you tick. So click the link in the description. If you're on the live, click the link in the comments to get yours. And we're going to go on. Also, you guys, that when you guys buy courses, when you book, when I do the mini readings, that is what supports me being able to do this channel. It supports me being able to buy new gear. It allows me to put more time into this. So when you do that, it's like it makes a difference when you support the channel. So that being said, let's get into the readings. The other announcement I guess I wanted to make was that it's past Mercury direct. Mercury went direct on the 7th. That was yesterday. I'm making this video on the 8th. That's today. And, you might be watching this after. And if you're watching this after, the chart that I have up right now, starting with Aries, is for the 9th. Now, the way it works with the chart, I don't usually explain this, but I'm going to today, is that the rising sign is determined by what hour it is. So in order to go to the next rising sign like this, I'm turning the chart usually 1 or 2 hours. So we're starting on Aries on the 9th, and we're going to go through, and it'll be, hours and hours and hours later on the 9th when we're finished. So I just felt like sharing that. The moon will move a little bit throughout that time. So that's not a big deal though, because we're looking at the effects of Mercury direct. And even though we're talking about this a couple days after, one day after, you don't always notice the difference on the exact day. Sometimes it takes more than a couple days for the planet that's turning retrograde to like kind of start being online again, right? So it's like I don't know, I can't think of a good metaphor. But sometimes the day when the planet stations, a thing will happen, but other times it's like the planet is the slowest it will ever be, so it doesn't necessarily pick up a bunch of momentum at that moment. It's kind of like turning a car around, where it's like if you turn a car around, you have to stop, you know what I mean, and then start again, and maybe you haven't gotten to full speed there for a couple minutes, that kind of thing. Okay, that made sense. Let's go on to our readings for this and what we might see happening at this time. Also, don't forget to check out the eclipse readings. They're still valid, and so is the Neptune and Aries reading. As well as my playlist on the planets in the houses. I actually realized today Mercury through the houses was not on the playlist. So if you've watched that playlist and you didn't get Mercury, it's there now, so you can check it out. Okay, getting into it. Let's go. Aries, we have Mercury goes direct in your 12th house of isolation, dreams, and the subconscious mind. Also, self sabotage goes in here. But you know, when Mercury goes into the 12th house, it's kind of like maybe our thinking processes are going to be a little more private. Maybe we are planning something that's a 12th house related. Maybe our thoughts are on the subconscious. Maybe we are watching lots of fantasy movies, especially in Pisces. Or, you know, checking out a little, doing things that are just checking out from reality, watching TV, watching movies, playing video games, um, you know, watching YouTube videos on astrology, but also meditating and contemplating. And because Mercury is separating from Saturn for Aries, maybe some of you are contemplating death. Maybe some of you are contemplating grief, or you're contemplating other very heavy, serious topics that Saturn is kind of off and on bringing your attention to since March of 2023 that are related to grief, loss. Also, you know, Saturn in the 12th is kind of like, I kind of think of it as like a spiritual, almost like a life review during life, where your thoughts are more about like what you accomplished, and there's not as, it's not like you can't go forward or anything, but there will be something making you think about things, you know, with Saturn in the 12th, something might be weighing heavy on your mind. And it might be death, it might be something else, right? Because Saturn rules a bunch of stuff that isn't that. It rules buildings, and it rules structures, and it rules, you know, contracts, and it rules like, I mean, not by itself. I think Saturn needs to be with Venus to be contracts. But, you know, what have you lost, Aries? Maybe your mind is on that. And maybe your mind right now, though, because Mercury is now separating, really separating from Saturn, which while it was retrograding, it was like moving towards Saturn. So now we're going away. Now we are leaving this grief, this loss, this hardship, this consequence for something that maybe other, like everyone can't see. Maybe some Aries are dealing with a consequence. Like worst case scenario, this would have already happened, but like maybe some Aries got a DUI during this, or maybe some Aries realized that the ayahuasca they're doing, it's like it's too much and they had a consequence, like a bad experience, right? A bad experience with the subconscious mind is a possibility here. However, with Mercury going away from this, I'm not predicting this in the future. I'm thinking Aries might be working through this. And this could be something from the past. Aries might be just working through regular grief. Aries might just be journaling on painful things, but it's helpful. Maybe you're talking to a therapist about like the worst thing that ever happened to you, but it's for the good, you know, it's for a good reason. Lots of things we can be doing with Saturn in that 12th house that are going to bring our consciousness into a more serious focus. Okay. So that's what I think Aries might be dealing with. Now, there's more here. There's more. And what I'm thinking here is about Mercury ruling the 3rd house. And it's also for you ruling the 6th house. So some of you might actually be doing some work behind the scenes. Your day-to-day schedule might be more isolated. So that could show up in any way. And it might be something like your normal workplace, the people aren't there who normally are there. Someone who always talks is leaving, or something like that. But it's like you're moving away from that. So maybe Maybe if there has been isolation in the workplace or in your day-to-day schedule, your day-to-day routine for Aries, then perhaps now it's like the beginning of moving away from that. Also, maybe we're making plans about our next move schedule wise or work wise. That's a really strong possibility with the third and the sixth house being so being the houses that Mercury represents in your chart. The third house is also driving. So maybe some Aries out there, if your car has been stuck or maybe you haven't been going as many places, now you will be. Why? Because Mercury moving towards Saturn implies that your car would move more slowly. It would not be moving as fast. Why? Maybe because there's lots of traffic. Maybe because you didn't take it anywhere for a couple days. Maybe something else. Keep in mind, these are general readings. I try to get into the details, and just that's why you have to take what resonates, because maybe one of those details is just for, just for you, and maybe some of them are not. Okay, going back to the sixth house is also how we spend our time. So again, with Mercury moving away from Saturn, it's like, okay, we just were spending our time in a more serious way. Maybe some Aries out there just got out of jail. Not all of you, obviously. Or maybe just came back from a retreat or were meditating a lot. Or who knows, maybe even did, what is it called? It's like a fast from speaking. What's it called? A silent retreat, but there's a name for it, I think. When you a vow of silence. Maybe some Aries are coming back from a vow of silence. If that's you, please tell me in the messages, because that would be very specific. If it's not you, don't worry about it. But it does feel like, again, we're moving toward more hope and more possibility and more plans of like, now we know what's going on. Now we know what the issues have been, if there have been any, with our workload, how we spend our time, and maybe our transportation, or our like how you could have done something really practical here, Aries, like made a new plan on how you go get your groceries, how you shop for your groceries, so that you are not, buying stuff every 2 days. Or maybe you have found a new store to shop at or something. It feels like the day-to-day mundane areas of life might have a little more inspiration and a little more forward momentum related to them. So that is actually what I see for Aries. And also for Aries, I would say this Mercury going direct might not be that strong of a transit for you, because the third house and the sixth house matter, but they're not the most important houses. They're important. Every house is important. They're not angular. They're just less strong. So what does that mean? It means Mercury retrograde and direct for Aries is not the strongest direct and retrograde. The fact that Mars is still not out of shadow is probably a bigger deal for Aries at the moment. So if this doesn't call to you, I recommend maybe trying the Neptune in Aries video, because since that's your sign, that's actually a current transit you might actually be feeling a little bit more. So I will say that for Aries, and we're going to go on to our next sign, which is Taurus. Let me know, Aries, in the comments if that resonated. I always love hearing from you. And if you tell me, be sure to tell me what I said, because I don't remember. Okay. Taurus, sun, moon, and rising. Mercury is direct in your 11th house of friends, community, and hopes and dreams. So Mercury going direct, moving away from Saturn, is kind of a feeling of we're ending some social isolation or some social challenges. Maybe we're resolving some problems in our community. Maybe there's been a commitment to a group that is either becoming easier or that you're almost done with. But it does feel like more activity, like a slow buildup of a little bit more activity day by day related to friends and social things. Now, this could also be just community that isn't your friends. It might be like people you work with, or, the people whatever you would go do that maybe is like a commitment, or networking group, or, a thing that's more of a chore, but there's people involved. Anything with community is going to be in that 11th house. So that can be public, or whatever, right? Just those connections. Mercury and Pisces in the 11th moving direct is kind of like, now maybe we're ready to go forward with something related to other people or our social media audience, or especially those Tauruses. Maybe if you're in a stage of life where the audience is something that's part of your life, that could be it. Some of you are just talking to people. Maybe you're talking to people more where you had more of a quiet phase for a little bit. But also, we need to consider, and some of you might just have more events to go to that have to do with others, and especially on the commitment side. But it feels like the commitment side might be less heavy than it has been. Okay, so then more for Taurus is going to be that Mercury rules your money house, and it's in the 11th house of money, and now it's going forward. So if Taurus have felt at all like you've been kind of going over in your mind what to fix related to finances, or what to redo, or how to make more money, or how to get rid of the things you own, or to be a minimalist, whatever your values are financially. If you've been thinking about that or going over it lately, that would be very much in alignment with a Mercury retrograde for you, because Mercury rules your money. That does not mean all Taurus's money are going back and forth all the time, but there is this duality here with Gemini being on that second house of money, of like, I want to do a little bit of this and a little bit of that, or I'd rather work in a job where I get to do more than one thing, or working in something that allows you to communicate. But this right now feels a little bit more like maybe we're getting inspired about what to do with our money. Maybe we are feeling hope. Let me know in a comment, Taurus. Are you feeling hope about finances? Especially with Mercury being with the North Node in the 11th, this might be a day even to the 9th is what this chart is on, the 9th at 7 a.m. Coming into this time, coming into these next couple days of feeling like you want to be inspired with finances again. And that might be you're getting a budget that's fun to do, or you're just feeling it, if that makes sense. So just kind of, I would say, be a little bit careful. Why? Because as far as transiting Mercury goes, Pisces isn't the best place for a plan. Pisces is a better place for the vision. So this might be a good time to get into the vision of what you want to do financially in your life. Do you want to be a minimalist? Do you want to save for the future? Like, how does it feel, right? And I think as Mercury continues, when it gets out of shadow, then maybe we'll be ready for like a nuts and bolts plan of what to be doing. That's kind of my sense around this. But let's talk about Mercury ruling your 5th house as well, and that being the house of creativity and self-employment. For my self-employed Tauruses, I'm feeling like some of you may have had some awarenesses about things you want to change. Now, some of you may have just like gone over the analytics of your business, and all the info, and now it's like, okay, now I have the info, I know what the real problem is, and now I'm ready to go forward on this next level. If you are not a self-employed Taurus, this could also just be your creative hobbies. Now, Mercury going direct in the 11th in Pisces is going to be a lot better for the hobbies and the music and the dancing and the expression of any kind of creative thing. Yeah, so like some Tauruses might be like performing something in the next couple days, performing their singing bowls, or singing, or dancing, or whatever else you can perform, any kind of thing. So that's a possibility. Other Tauruses might actually be meeting with friends to enjoy yourself. Why? Because the fifth house is the fun house, and the fifth house ruler going direct, especially for Tauruses in the last few weeks who have felt like they haven't been hanging out as much, haven't been as social for whatever reason, maybe are now ready to be back to their old self again, back to hanging out or back to connecting with the community again, after a little hiatus or something. Okay, so that's what I have for the Tauruses. We're going to move on now to our Geminis. All right. So for Gemini, we do have Mercury going direct in the 10th house of career, and also Mercury ruling you, being the ruler of your sign, always going to affect you on an important way. So this really can be a day-to-day life thing, like maybe at work you had to go back over a spreadsheet or whatever it is you do, and now it's that project is moving forward. It can be that simple. It can be that every day. But also, it might have to do more with like your life plan, what you want to accomplish in life, what you want to accomplish as your next step in your career, how you want to be seen in the world. I have to grab some water really quick. Okay, that was way harder than I thought it would be. 1 second. Okay, so Geminis, yeah. What do you want to accomplish in the world? What do you want to be known for? What's the long-term dream? You might find yourself really thinking about that at this time around the 9th. I'm recording this Tuesday evening, so by Wednesday morning and Wednesday daytime. But also, I think that, Mercury in the 10th could also just be something very simple, like more phone calls to make, more conversations to be had, more sales calls, more conversations with the boss. Maybe there was a meeting with the boss and things needed to be changed, and now everyone's rushing around trying to change it. Mercury does bring activity to a house, but the pace when Mercury has just gone direct is not going to be zipping around like Mercury wants to be. It's going to be just kind of like slowly walking toward the thing, but we might be doing several things at once. There's always the general gist of it being your life can now move forward again, and whatever felt like it was stalled or stuck or moving in a different direction could be moving forward again. But there's also let me think, that there's more here. I know there's more here. Let's just talk about Mercury ruling the 4th house. The 4th house being your home and your emotions. Now, for some Geminis, it might simply be we're looking to move. We're looking to change our home. We're looking to, when a planet is in the top of the chart, it's the most visible. That doesn't always mean like you're selling your house or there's pictures of your house online. It could actually mean that your house and home are the main topics at the moment. Maybe we're moving something around. Maybe we're redecorating or cleaning or minimalizing or gaining new things. Maybe Mars in the 2nd. Maybe you bought some new stuff, Gemini, and now you're like, where am I gonna put this stuff? It could be anything, but those are the more everyday things that I could see happening. But another thing too is that the 4th house rules our emotional foundation, and having that planet at the top of the chart does suggest that you might be having more emotional conversations or conversations about how you feel. And with Saturn here, they might be serious conversations. This could be happening at work or in whatever you do that's the most public. You might be making commitments to people. You might be having conversations, serious conversations. If you're a manager or something, you might be like firing people or something. Or maybe just got done doing that. Something like that. But overall, I mean, I don't see anything wrong here with this transit. It's just kind of more of a straightforward one to me where it's about you and your life direction and that movement forward and feeling like you're taking the steps toward whatever it is. After, usually retrograde's not necessarily bad, but it usually doesn't promote forward momentum. It usually promotes going back over stuff. So if you try to, couldn't you launch something during Mercury retrograde if you're a Gemini rising? Yeah. And then you might not, you might have to redo it because it just doesn't, the energy just doesn't always support that clear, easy momentum forward. But yeah, like I said, Mercury in the 10th could simply be you talking to people on a public level, chit-chatting more, having more conversations, sending more emails, writing more, doing Mercury stuff for your career more. And it might be to finish something up too, like to reach a deadline or something with Saturn here. With Saturn here in the 10th, this is a time in life where more is asked of you professionally, more is asked of you in your career. So there's that as well. Okay, so we're going to go on now to our next sign, which is going to be Cancers. Okay, for Cancer, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Mercury goes direct in your 9th house. Mercury's direct here now. So we have activity to your 9th house. So for some Cancers, this is reading spiritual books or studying. Maybe there was a time, maybe you were on a little break from school and now you're back again. Or maybe you were, taking a break from the stuff you normally read or like to learn about, and now you're starting to learn again. It could be something like that. It might be more like taking a course to like a continuing education course for your job or something. And just being a time where learning, knowledge, and information are a focal point. You might also be communicating what you know. You might be the one teaching or leading a class or sharing what you know to someone. It could be a group or it could be on a smaller level. Why? Because the 3rd house is our communication and the 9th house is what we know. Communicating what we know, communicating about knowledge, the theology, philosophy, all of the meaningful topics there could be. So there's that possibility here. Also, again, Mercury is just going to bring more activity to that 9th house. So that can be like ready to make some travel plans. It could be thinking about long-term goals. It could be praying, it could be praying or meditating or journaling. Why? Because it depends kind of, because if you're journaling to God, right, or to spirit or something, then yeah, it can be journaling, because that 9th house really is reaching toward the sky. It's heaven, right? It's toward the heavens. So your mind is toward the heavens, Cancer. And again, those heavens sometimes are spiritual thought. I keep wanting to say theosophy, so maybe someone out there is like studying theosophy, really motivated right now to study. Why? Because Mars trying that Mercury North Node is like, all I want to do is study. So maybe some Cancers just took a course, or maybe some Cancers have some stuff they have to learn for their job, and they're just hungry for it right now. That's kind of the feeling that the North Node gives you in transit with planets, is like you're hungry for Mercury stuff. You want to pray. You want to know what to say, what hymn to recite, to get closer to your spiritual path or things like that. So it really does feel like that, especially with Jupiter still in that 12th house, where some of the benefits you get from this Jupiter are those kind of things, are like feeling a little bit more like you can grow in your spiritual life. Gratitude, practicing gratitude, talking to your spirit guides, trusting the unseen. Okay. This is really strong right now. So maybe, maybe Cancers know what I'm talking about here. Let me know in the comments if you do. There's a lot going on in the ninth house, right? Well, Venus is retrograde here, where it's like, this is the time, retrograde or not, Venus will make you want to soak in the spiritual information. And then Saturn will make you want to take it seriously. And then Mercury will just stimulate all of that. So there can be a lot going on. And for some people, this can be more like talking about contracts, especially with ninth house related things, legal contracts, contracts or plans, travel itineraries, working with a travel agent, anything else related to the law I didn't mention, and or higher education as well. So this could go many different ways for many different Cancers, just because that the expression of that ninth house is going to be different for everyone. Not everyone deals with the law, right? Some people do. Not everyone goes to another country. Some people do. Even speaking other languages or dealing with foreigners might be something that's on the radar for some Cancers at this time. Overall, though, we're also going to see your third house, right, ruled by Virgo, and your, 12th house ruled by Gemini to be the ones that are going forward. So third house is the act of writing. It's also our transportation. It's our local environment. So if anything has been stalled or felt like it's having to be reassessed related to your car, your commute, one of your siblings, or what else? Siblings, third house, your grocery store shopping, your trip in your local environment you normally take, and or write, the act of writing. So maybe also publishing, right? Publishing for some Cancers who want to publish, maybe now is the time that's on your mind, or that's like an important topic. And then the 12th house is going to be that spiritual path, really strong right now. So good time to just pray, meditate, do whatever you do, and enjoy it, and just let your intuition guide you, or just be focusing on your intuition, or having those quiet moments where you can do that spiritual work might really be what's important right now for Cancers. Okay, so going on to our next sign, which is going to be our Leos. Okay, Leos, we have Mercury direct in your 8th house. 8th house, I always say, is of sex, death, and other people's money. It has a lot of things in it, so we're going to try to make sense of some of it. Mercury North Node in the 8th, if you are someone who reads tarot, likes to get intuitive hits on things, is interested in that area of life at all, what's beyond the veil, Mercury hitting the North Node will be a time where you might really, really want to just do that. So I'm looking at the time on this is actually tomorrow. So this is the 9th in the afternoon. But really, Mercury going direct here can just feel like maybe there's a new forward focus relating to shared resources, relating to your intuition, your spiritual connection from the standpoint of like getting downloads, or getting that kind of thing. And or like talking to past over loved ones, if that's something you like to do. Also intimacy, right? Intimacy might move forward after a stall of some kind, but it kind of feels like if that's the case, maybe there was some trust broken, or maybe there was some like impending fear of broken trust or something, that if not, then ignore this. It will have already happened. But maybe there were just some serious conversations you've had to have with someone you're close to recently, and some kind of energy shift has happened around this that allows you to move away from that and toward other, hopefully better things. Now, another thing that this can be about really for Leos is money, because Mercury is your money planet. The 8th house is another money house. If so, maybe some of you made a payment. Maybe some of you just paid your taxes. Maybe some of you paid off a debt or something. That is very highly likely with this. Or, Mercury North Node is all you want to do is make the plan to pay off the debt. Maybe you don't have the money yet, or all you want to do is invest, or all you want to do is read tarot, or all you want to do is just like watch documentaries about near-death experiences. Now, for some, this might be more of an intimate thing where it's more about some kind of sexual thing. That's not going to be everyone, but for some people who it is, it's really going to, bam, just be that. But most people, I think it's more like paying off a debt, paying someone back. Your money becomes other people's money. Investing into something that, may or may not be risky. That all falls under that. Now, we also want to consider that Mercury doesn't just rule your second house, it also rules your 11th house of community. So this gives me the feeling of getting closer to someone, like someone you met at work or someone you know in a social context. Now you're closer to them. All you want to do is be closer to them, or all they want to do is be closer to you. Now, worst case scenario, this is someone who like maybe comes into your like intimate, or your like spiritual, I don't know. I want to say worst case scenario, someone breaks boundaries, right? They're like in your house and you don't want them there. They're like stopping by and you're like, what? Why are they here? Or something like that, where someone in the community is like getting close. What I see here is someone in the community getting close. But the thing is, I can't tell if this is someone you want in your close space or not. It might be someone you met and that you want to get closer to. And you're like, yes, let's get closer. This could be a really nice moment for some Leos out there. Keep in mind that this might not be everyone, right? You have to kind of see which thing resonates because it's a general reading. But like, the potential of investing money, getting closer to someone, developing trust after some kind of challenge kind of comes up here too. Now the 11th house is a good house, right? So it's a positive house among the houses. So having the 11th house ruler with the North Node is fine, because you just want to do more 11th house shit. That's more people, more friends, more creating trust with people, getting close in a social environment. It kind of reminds me of like one of those workshops you do on trust building or something. Maybe some Leos are having a team building exercise, or like gosh, I remember all the stuff I did when I was a kid and I was in treatment. Like I remember one where we would fall back and the other person had to catch us, and I couldn't catch the guy. I remember that. But back to Leo. Maybe it's that, where you're doing some kind of trust building exercise, and it might be something formal like that, or it might be something informal where you're not planning on doing a trust building thing, but it builds trust anyway by overcoming some kind of shared crisis, or like mini crisis, not anything crazy. Okay, so we're going to stop there for Leos. I think overall, probably financial stuff going on, and good for intuition. And good time to get closer to people, as long as they're people you want to get closer to. So let's go ahead to our next sign, which is our Virgos. And for Virgo, we have Mercury direct in the 7th house of other people. Now, keep in mind, if you're a Virgo in a relationship, it's probably going to be about that. But if you are not in a relationship, the 7th house just describes the other people in your life, whoever that is. Any other person, any other person that's like significant. Okay, so Mercury North Node might be a time of getting to know somebody. It could be that, right? It could be, a more romantic situation. It could be making a friend and getting to know them and just chatting more. You could be literally just talking more to other people. That could be at work. There's more people around to talk to. It could be if you do something like I do and you're just making more videos, using your voice, chit-chatting more. You might be having more ideas at this time because Mercury's with that North Node, and Mercury rules you. You are Mercury. So where are you right now coming direct? in relationship with others. You might be making some kind of agreement, setting up some kind of a deal, working with someone, like working with a temp agency to find new work, or working with your manager to get you a better position, or working with someone else to arrange something, right? You might be having sales calls if you're in sales. You might be making a nutrition plan if you're a nutritionist. So planning and talking about the plan are important. Maybe having an inspiring conversation. Maybe doing some journaling about what you want your purpose to be, right? Mercury with the North Node in the 7th. Maybe considering what's your ideal partner if you're not in a relationship. And even if you're in one, maybe considering how you want to be in your relationship going forward. There might be inspiring conversations. You might have the coolest fucking conversation with someone about like the nature of the universe. That's a real possibility with Mercury in Pisces conjunct the North Node coming direct. But let's talk a little bit about the area of life besides just you that Mercury represents, because Mercury going retrograde for Virgos and Geminis, but we already covered theirs, can be a little bit of a life, like you're considering your life a little bit, like what next step am I going to take in my life? Am I going to move? Am I not? Am I going to go for this job? I'm going to stay in this one. Am I going to date this person or that person or nobody? Am I going to start whatever, like life plans, whatever that next step is. Am I going to organize my closet or put it off for another 6 months? Whatever. It could be any next thing you want to do in life, right? Depending on what season of life you're in. It's not always a big change. But whatever that next season of life is, you've probably been thinking about it more lately. Because when Mercury goes retrograde, that's kind of the idea, is like we're thinking about the next plan. We're revising something. We're going over it in our mind. What worked about this, what didn't, and what needs to change going forward. So now let's talk about Mercury ruling that 10th house as well, because sometimes, especially with Jupiter in the 10th for Virgos right now, some of you are working side hustles. Some of you have 2 jobs. Some of you are working one job where you're doing a bunch of different shit. Jupiter in Gemini for Virgos is like, we have a million things to do at work, and ooh, shiny, there's another thing to do. Easy to take on too many things, easy to get your energy a little too scattered in a bunch of different directions. So maybe Mercury going to retrograde has helped you see, have you been too scattered in the way that you are working, or in the way that you're approaching your work or your reputation or your long-term plan when it comes to career? Have you been like, ooh, shiny, going around? And, Mercury would have shown you already by this point what that is, what needs to be taken more seriously, what the problems are. And you may have had some real talks with yourself. Like, this isn't working. This thing, these people, this job, this whatever, this role in this job, you're probably going to be the most aware, or even in the last couple of weeks, the most aware of how much you don't like your job. If you don't like your job, what aspects of it you don't like? What aspects of it are you not getting results, or, feeling like you need to release the heaviness of it? Not every Virgo needs to quit their job right now. But when it comes to your life plan, if your job or your whatever you're doing for your side hustle isn't cutting it, I think right now Virgos are going to be like very aware of where it's not cutting it and what needs to change. So that being said, we have this moment of maybe inspiration on the 9th, or, some kind of little opportunity or a new conversation or a new doorway opens. Again, this could just be in relationship with other people. Like, we have a new friend, we're dating a new person, we get asked out, we something like that. But it can also be sometimes seventh house stuff is you working with someone else on your behalf, like working with an attorney or working with a employment, what are they called? Recruiter or something like that. Or, HR, someone who's like, I wouldn't say HR is always on your behalf, but sometimes they are. Sometimes they really are. But you guys know what I mean. Working with someone on your behalf who's like advocating for you and you're working together to accomplish something, that could also be happening too. So, good day for teamwork, for building connections, for accomplishing a shared goal, for helping others and like, cooperation and stuff, but also, and I'm looking at this on the 9th, which is Wednesday. But if you're watching this today, it's like we're in a time for Virgos of really getting clear on your vision, get into your vision and maybe even let yourself dream a little bit because I feel that Virgos need to remember that sometimes. Sometimes right, because I'm a Virgo rising too, we get so freaking, wrapped up in the exact way things need to be. And Mercury in Pisces is like, let's just dream a little bit. Let's imagine the best possible scenario. And it does feel like this is a time to really be doing that. So, with that, Jupiter still has 2 more months to improve your 10th house. And I do think a lot of Virgos are going to be making some decisions here or moving forward with decisions that have been made recently that are like now the energy is going to be moving. So let me know, Virgos, if that relates, if you resonate. And we're going to go on to our next sign, which is going to be our Libras. Okay. Libras. Mercury goes direct in your 6th house of work, of your time, of your schedule, of your health routines and daily routines. So Mercury in the 6th could be you're talking more, you're busier. You're busier doing chores, you're busier doing dishes, you're busier getting stuff done. With Mars in the 10th, you might be really busy working right now, Libra. But maybe not, maybe not. Mars does things, so does Mercury. So they're kind of stimulating each other, even though neither one of them are moving very fast right now, because neither one of them are like in their like clear moving forward energy. So that can look like having a project at work to do that isn't moving fast, very fast. It's just moving. And Mercury in the 6th could be also kind of similar vibe of like having stuff to do. This can be at a job. This can be just chores, things you need to deal with in your day-to-day schedule that are got to be done. And Mercury, let me think about this, because sometimes the 6th house can also be like building a skill, like practicing something, practicing anything, especially anything that you might want to do for a living, like if you want to be a life coach, practicing coaching with clients and making those commitments to coach those clients so that you get that experience. Also, I just got a little distracted, so let me get back to where I was. Also, let's look at what else Mercury rules for you. It's your 12th house, but it's also your 9th house. Very spiritual when Mercury goes direct for you, because it's like 9th house ruler in the 6th. Maybe you're reading your spiritual text every day right now. Maybe you found a mantra or something like that you're repeating all the time. Or maybe you're doing some other spiritual thing or religious thing that has words like a prayer or a prayer or a verse or a mantra or something else. Or you're listening to a chant, or you're listening to a spiritual sermon or something that's like, about that connection to the divine and the connection to all things. Some Libras could just be bringing their spirituality into their day-to-day life. Sometimes 12th ruler in the 6th can be, again, bringing your spiritual beliefs into reality. So it's like, just like doing a good job using spiritual principles, in your work. I want to help this person, but I don't know how. Maybe I'll practice unconditional love, or maybe I'll see them like the Course in Miracles says and just believe that there's going to be a miracle. Remember every encounter is a holy encounter, and that I can either find myself in this person and, maybe like that, but we're bringing that into real life. I almost get the image, not all Libras are going to be waiters or waitresses, but I get the image of like someone waiting tables or something, but they're quietly practicing some kind of spiritual principle while they're doing it. And it's like, they're not just doing it, they've got all this energy, this belief behind their actions, but they're bringing it into something day to day like that. Now apply that to whatever makes sense for you. Okay, so it can also be some self-awareness, right? Because the sixth house can be a house of trying to be a better person. It can be the house of being someone who is working on themselves. So Mercury in the sixth for Libras can be you working on yourself, you listening to self-development, trying to change your habits, really putting effort into that. And that might be really strong here in the next few days. Overall, though, I think it's the spiritual path mostly that Libras have been contemplating or considering changing or revising that we're going to see now that Mercury goes direct is probably going to be moving forward. This could also relate to something you are studying or some legal thing you need to deal with or some legal paperwork you have to do, something along those lines. Okay, so going on now to our next sign, which is going to be our Scorpios. Scorpios, we have for you Mercury going direct in that fifth house. So Mercury went direct yesterday in your fifth house. Fun. So, this can bring more fun into your life. You could be doing more hobbies. It could be just the time of the year where it's a season of something you normally go do, right? Whether it's weather wise or like sports wise or something else. You could have just signed up for a team of some kind or a tournament of some kind or something else where it's like, now's the time to go forward with this. It can also be dating. So for Scorpios who are dating, it could be like you really wanting to go on dates and just feeling that that's where you want things to go. Because Mercury rules your 11th house, this could be a moment where like someone you met in a group now becomes someone you're flirting with. And then maybe someone you're going to date and maybe someone you're going to have some fun with. Maybe. That's not going to be all of you, but for some of you, it'll be that. For others, let me think. Because Mercury, Mercury in the fifth is kind of like having fun conversations. This is another one where I could totally see it being talking to someone about the universe and just like getting lost in a conversation about the nature of all things and just really enjoying that conversation and letting it go kind of everywhere. Mercury in Pisces is good about that. It's good for like just being boundless conversation and having it be so imaginative and fun. Okay, so we're seeing a beginning of more activity in the fun house, right? Where it's like, that's not bad, Scorpio, that's not bad. And let's consider what Mercury rules for you. It's the 11th house of community. So community might be more fun or inspiring or more of a topic of interest at this point. You might be, especially if you're a Scorpio who's like, I have an online community, what am I going to do with it? That could have been the serious consideration up until now, where you're like, oh no, what's going to happen is almost like, for some reason, with the way Mercury was moving and the way it's moving now, it makes me feel like some of us were like feeling this feeling of like, oh, this could move towards something bad, but then it doesn't. So for Scorpio, that could be your friends, your community, the circle that you hang around, being like going, like it seemed like it was going to go in a negative direction, but now we did something changed and now it's not. Now there's another thing here too with community for Scorpio, where if you've been wanting to change it, if something's not working, if you're like, I want to join this community, but they won't let me in, or something else along those lines, now you might be able to go forward with this slowly but surely. As far as the community that you're in or want to be in, your friends or your social, anyone you're around. And then also Mercury ruling that 8th house of intimacy and the 5th house, usually that's going to be sex, okay? Usually that's what it is. Because the 8th house is like intimacy and closeness and trust. And the 5th house is just like flirting, dating, romance, right? So like when they connect, they connect. So that's some Scorpios, you're like, yeah, I know exactly what that is. Others of you, if that doesn't relate, it doesn't mean anything. It just these houses are going to express in different ways for different people. But the 8th house does rule trust. You do have Jupiter here right now, which is helping you through other people. The help that Jupiter is giving you right now is going to be through others. It's not going to be independent. It's going to be other people have solutions. Other people have ideas. Other people can give you money, even some Scorpios. And I don't think this transit today is like people giving you money. It could be. But I think this transit is like someone else's good deeds or someone else's support or a connection with someone else leads to a positive, joyful conversation or experience that's like inspiring or fun or has no boundaries. So that could go a bunch of different ways. I think for Scorpio, the best way to use this energy is literally try to enjoy yourself and think when you're thinking about the people you want to be around, because that's really what Mercury rules. People, right? Close people, people that are not close, that are groups of people, any kind of group. And then being like more fun, more inspiring, more creative. Birthing a creative project with someone could be happening. And so I would say this is the time to enjoy it. And maybe there is some energy here supporting the creation of a new thing. So that could be fun and like inspired. So that's what I have for Scorpio. Let me know if it makes sense, if it resonates. I love hearing from you guys. And if you do, tell me what I said, because I forget what I said. And you guys will say something that references something I said. And I'm like, what did I say? I'm just reading the chart. I don't remember this stuff. Okay, we're going to go on to Sages. Let me get our little caption for Sag up here. Also, for anyone jumping on, there is a sale on one of my courses. It's on the North Node. Click the link in the chat or in the video description to get more. The sale ends tomorrow. Okay, Sagittarius. We have your chart up. This is the chart of the transits. Mercury went direct in your 4th house of home and emotional foundations. So we might see a forward momentum around topics related to home, especially for Sagittariuses who want to move, want to change something in their home, want to somehow improve it or make it better. But Mercury in the 4th could have a totally different meaning. Sometimes it's about how we feel, thinking about how we feel, right? Because the 4th house is our emotional foundation. It's how we feel. Saturn has been here since March, really bringing our attention and our focus to, do we feel okay in our own skin or not? And if we do not, what do we need to do to fix that? What do we need to do to feel more solid and grounded on an emotional level? And Mercury's here going, okay, if there was an emotional problem, here's how we fix it. Here's the journaling we want to do. Now, I would say I'm actually going to give advice on this one to Sagittariuses for right now, which is journal, meditate, talk about how you feel. Listen to things related to, even if you're listening to a podcast right now, listen to something that's really not all in your head, like plan to do this, plan to do that. Listen to how you feel. Because the North Node Mercury is going to support emotional awareness. So, I mean, this is a really good time to kind of slow down and pay attention to how you feel. And I know that most Sagittariuses and mutable people in general are like, slow down, and fire signs in general are like, no, thank you. But it does feel like there's so much wisdom to be gained by kind of slowing down. Now let's talk though more about some of the other areas Mercury rules, because Mercury rules your relationships and your work. So relationships might be, there might be some potential here for something good in relationship with others. That could be a romantic one, but it could also be a friendship or something that just you get closer to someone, or you're ready to get closer to someone. That could be part of this retrograde. Is this the right person? Are these the right people? Now, with Mercury ruling the 10th, what have you been thinking about in career? Sometimes during the retrograde, you're thinking about, if you're going to change a job or something, that would be a time. But let's say you're a Sag and you're not changing your job. Well, maybe you're thinking about your role in the company and what you like, what you don't like. Maybe you're thinking about your rest of your life and your career, and are you in a place that fits or not? Is the job you're in fitting? It doesn't have to be, I'm getting out of this right now, but it can just be some awarenesses. Sometimes though, when the planet ruling your job goes retrograde, it's not you getting a new one. It's you going back over something at work. And now that Mercury is direct, maybe we're not quite finished, but we're finished going back over something, or, something along those lines. That can be how it goes too. Sometimes it's a phase or a project you're working on at work that completes, or it has to be reopened, right? And now it's been reopened, so it's ready to be processed or gone forward again. But overall, this is kind of a big one for Sagittarius because, the 10th and the 7th are pretty important. And with Jupiter in the 7th, it's helping make it better, your relationships. So, this is going to be here for 2 more months. So if you have problems in relationship, whether it's like you want to make new friends and you haven't, or whether it's like any problem in a marriage or in a relationship, Jupiter is going to help make that better. But how better it makes it depends on how bad was the problem. But basically, why am I saying that, right? Because I've met people who, when Jupiter went through their 7th house, they got a divorce. And it's like, wait a minute, that's not what astrology says. Well, actually it is, if you're a good astrologer, because if someone is in a really, really bad relationship and Jupiter goes through the 7th, the only thing Jupiter can do to make that better is end the relationship. That is the better path. And I know that's not like, yay, happy, but it's just one of those things. Let me try to get more back on track here because I did go off on that a little bit. But it's important that you guys know this stuff, because if I just say Jupiter in the 7th is going to, make your relationships the best they'll ever be, then I'm fucking lying to you. And you're like, but my relationship's getting worse. Maybe it's not getting worse. Maybe the clarity of how bad it is the thing Jupiter is helping with. I'm sorry, sometimes that's how it is. Okay, back to Mercury. Let's talk about something positive. I know some of you Sages are free spirits. You're like, I'm not even in a relationship, but maybe there's one Sag out there that needed to hear that needed to understand that Jupiter will make it better in whatever way Jupiter can. And that is not the same for everyone. And it's not the same in every season of life. But we have Mercury here direct. So it's like we're ready to kind of start dealing with whatever we realized in the last few weeks about our career or about our relationships, or about both, maybe about the relationships we have with the people we work with. Either way, Mercury's down here in the bottom of the chart where what it wants to do is feel. Mercury in Pisces wants to feel. Mercury in the fourth house wants to feel and contemplate shit. Mercury in the fourth, people with this natally love contemplating shit, especially their own feelings. And I say that because I have this one. So it's a good time to contemplate your own feelings because Mercury's just going to want to do that. And you can realize stuff and it can be profound, man. You can realize profound shit right now. So taking the time out to let yourself be quiet so you can realize it is the best use of this transit. Okay. And then we might see work stuff or people stuff moving forward. Okay, Sag, that was your reading. I hope it helped. Going on to Capricorns. For Capricorn, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Mercury went direct in your third house of the act of writing, of elementary school, of your car, your transportation, your local environment, where you buy your groceries, and also communication. So some of you Capricorns might be talking more. That's probably talking, emailing, writing, especially writing if you are a publisher or someone who's a published author, someone who writes a lot for your job and something had to be redone. It may be some Capricorns, especially if writing is like a key theme. This might be a time where you are ready to have the new inspired idea for the next thing. Or maybe you are going back over an old thing you've already published or an old thing you've already written. And now you're ready to start rewriting it or something. That could be for some Capricorns. Some of you are just like Mercury in the third. I think of like answering the phone and then having another call come in. You know, I think of like dispatchers. I think of like people who are like on the internet with their headsets. You know what I mean? And just like busy, you know, that busy while a text message is coming in, while they're writing an email, and they're just managing it all at the same time. So some Capricorns could just be in this energy right now. And also, let's talk about what area Mercury rules in your chart. We've got the Mercury ruling the 6th and the 9th houses. So again, for some Capricorns, it's about being busy. It's about having a lot to do. It's about doing skilled work. It's about the area of life, about your time and your energy and what you're spending it on and what you're doing and how you're getting from place to place. That may have been moving more slowly. Now it's moving faster. Maybe Capricorns are planning their day or planning their schedule and just like putting some time into what is the ideal schedule for me? What's the ideal way for me to spend my time? And with Jupiter in the 6th, this is actually a good time for the next couple months still to solve problems related to your day-to-day everyday life. So you might be planning how to do that. How do I pay all these bills off? Or how do I lower my expenses and get my rent lower every month? Or how do I, get better insurance, or whatever those day-to-day problems you need to solve? Everyone has them. Mercury might be like bringing some energy to that. Now, Mercury ruling the 9th can also be moving forward on some kind of course of study, foreign language, plan to travel, but it doesn't feel like you're going somewhere. This would feel more like coming home or more like planning the next trip or something. This would feel more like there's other things from the 9th house, right? Some of you could just be studying, learning, wanting to finish books, remembering a book you forgot about the last few weeks that you want to start on. Maybe you've been restudying something for a certification or for a personal reasons, for something you want to study or learn. I'm trying to think of other 9th house stuff. Higher education is there. The law is there. So if you're a Capricorn who's been dealing with some legal stuff, maybe that starts to move forward a little bit more now. That's not legal advice. Those are all the things I can think of. And then the publishing and editing and stuff. Overall, though, Mercury in the third could be a time where you're curious for spiritual things. But sometimes, with the North Node, the nodes here too, it's like sometimes you're taking your spiritual stuff and bringing it into real life and bringing it into like your day-to-day life, right? So like, and even with Jupiter in the sixth, that tracks like praying every day, meditating every day, looking at the astrology chart every day, using some other form of guidance that isn't any of those things, maybe a religious thing, maybe like a Buddhist thing or other kind of religious thing where it's like, I want to practice this, or even a Reiki thing where you're practicing like the things you say for Reiki. Yeah, that's all possible. So mantras, meditations, things like that might just be happening. Overall, the areas that I see going forward now for Capricorns are going to be that ninth house of spirituality, and then the sixth house of how you spend your time, and possibly even the blending of those two things. Okay. Going on to Aquariuses. Let me get this. Okay. So for Aquarius, we have Mercury going direct in your second house of money. So there's the obvious thing. If money has felt like you've been revising it, going back over finances or expenses or something, or debts especially, now being ready to go forward with an investment plan or a paying off debt, or figuring out how to spend money you received. If you did receive something like in an inheritance or in something like that, where someone else's money came to you and now it's like, okay, now I got to figure out how I'm going to deal with this. It does feel like with Saturn here in the second, since March of 2023, that Aquariuses may have been going through a time where they're like trying to figure out that you might be trying to figure out your finances and trying to figure out, sometimes not always so bad for everyone, but sometimes Saturn in the second, you'll take some kind of financial hit, or maybe you'll even choose to do work where you make less money because you want to be happy and you don't like the stuff you have to do to make more money. It can be that. So then, let me think here. Mercury also does rule the 8th house, so it's very much feeling financial for you. But the 8th house is other people's money. And so that could be, sometimes, like if you're an Aquarius and you rely on someone else's income, like you have a partner who supports you, sometimes when Mercury's retrograde, it'll be like, oh, they didn't get as much of their paycheck that week or something, or they're spending more and you're not getting as much of it. And now it's back to normal, but that might not apply. So if that doesn't apply, just forget about it. This can also be, other people's money becomes your money. That can be how it is. So someone could give you a loan or something, you could borrow some money during this time. That's not advice. Then also, going on to the next thing that could be going on here is Mercury rules the 5th house of fun. So having the fun house planet in the money house, it's like sometimes you might be making money doing something you enjoy. Maybe you were playing poker and you won some money. And now you're like, yay, I got it. I got money from something I like. Your hobby is now giving you money, or you won at bingo or something. My grandma always plays bingo, so that's why I thought of that. But it's like, that's one possibility. Another possibility is that you were doing something fun and you bought something and you brought it home. And now you have a new thing that you didn't have before. Other things with Jupiter in the 5th, bringing more emphasis on the fun house, more emphasis on creativity. Creativity could possibly be bringing you income. Maybe not, but like, remember, creativity could just be your own business. Some Aquariuses, maybe your own business is now bringing you money, or you have been going over and reviewing how your own business has been getting clients or not getting clients, or getting money or not getting money in any form. And now you're like, okay, I'm ready with the new plan. And maybe it doesn't mean your stuff is going bad. It might just be that time. It was that time to go over the results of a Facebook ad you ran or whatever it is you do. And now you have the information, so you're ready to kind of start going forward, but you're not going forward fast yet. It's just one step at a time. So it could be any of that stuff. It really does feel more financial for Aquariuses than any other sign. But while Jupiter's in that fifth, if you're trying to make self-employment income, even if that's a challenge, Jupiter can still help for the next couple months while it's here. So not that it won't do anything good after that. It's just Jupiter is helping make that fifth house of fun, pleasure, enjoyment, self-employment, creativity better. And Mercury's here going, okay, now we have a plan to do it. You might just be having more fun and figuring out the finances of it. And maybe you've been wanting to do something fun that you haven't been able to afford or is like out of the budget. And you're like figuring out a plan to do it anyway, or figure out how, or save or something. Okay, going on to our last but not least sign, which is Pisces. Okay, Pisces, sun, moon, and rising. We have Mercury going direct in your first house of you. So when Mercury is in the first, it's like you're busier, you're thinking more, you're going back and forth a little bit more, and the type of energy, Mercury's the back and forthy one, and it's like, okay, are we going to do this? Or are we going to do this? In the first house, though, sometimes it's your body. So it can actually be you physically going to more places, like going over here and going over there and going over here. That could be at your job. You have to literally get up and go across the room and back more often. It could be at your house. It could be when you're out and about. But there is the feeling of motion, Now, Mercury in the first can also be a time where you're thinking more about yourself. You're thinking more about you, how you come across. With Venus, Saturn here, maybe Pisces have been thinking about how they come across, how they look, how they talk, whether they are making an influence or not. Those kind of things may have been on your mind a lot lately. And especially if we consider that Mercury is going to move into your second house soon, it's like, how does your image affect your income? How does your self-image affect your income and what you own and what you have? And what do you want to change about that if you do? Now, also, we have to think about how Mercury rules your seventh house and your fourth house. So relationship stuff, family stuff, and your own feelings or your own home. Some Pisces might be thinking about moving, realizing what's wrong with their house, feeling like they need to get out of it, or making other changes in the home. Maybe it's not moving. Maybe it's, I don't want to have a roommate anymore. Or maybe it's, I want to rearrange stuff. Whatever thing you kind of want to do to make your home life better. Most likely that's been top of mind the last few weeks. Just kind of thinking about it in the back of your head, going over it in your head of like, what would it take to make this better? But you may not have had the actual solution yet. I think around the 9th or the 10th, that's looking at, today's Tuesday. So that's Wednesday, Thursday, might be a good time for Pisces to kind of meditate on what's the ideal home situation. What's the ideal home situation? What's the ideal relationship situation? What are the ideal friend situations? How does your home influence your identity? How do your friends influence your identity? And is that working for you? What's not working about it? What do you want to see different? Like the feeling I get with Mercury and the North Node in the first house is like diving all into making a plan of your own vision for your life and not giving a shit what anybody else thinks. You know what I mean? Because that South Node in the 7th is like, we're not saying we never have relationships again, but North Node, Mercury in the first is like, what is the plan for my life direction? And then after I figured that out, who's coming with me? Now, of course, this doesn't mean dropping the people that are important to you. It just means this is a time where Pisces might be prioritizing or feeling called to make a plan for what inspires them. You know, what inspires you, Pisces? Saturn has been in your first house, making you maybe a little less inspired for the last couple years. So this might be a time, even though Saturn's still here, to go, yeah, maybe we're ready for this new level of inspiration. Maybe we're ready to set a new goal or a new dream or a new, fun escape from reality. Maybe we're ready to have life be a little bit more magical. And maybe someone else is influencing this meditation or this imagination or this inspiration. Pisces, I think you need to get inspired right now. I really think that maybe some of you are feeling more inspired, and maybe there is just a little bit more hope for the future of like, let's move away from this challenging time, whatever it has been. Let's move away from the heaviness we felt. Let's be done with the time of being a martyr, making too many sacrifices. And I don't mean like stop making sacrifices, but it's like Pisces might be having their thoughts right now on what are we sacrificing for and what future vision of our life is going to make us happy. With Jupiter in the fourth, it's the 10th ruler in the place of the emotions. What are you going to do in your work and your life that's going to make you feel a sense of belonging, like you're home? And what are you going to do in your life that's going to improve your emotional state? What is worth sacrificing for? What have you been sacrificing for the last couple years? What have you stepped up to? And is it getting you closer to a dream or not? And if it is, are we going to keep going? Are we going to keep trying? Are we going to keep working on it? How can we supercharge it though? And for some reason, I just feel this for Pisces. So I don't even know where this is coming from, but it's like, how are you going to like take a rocket ship to your goal instead of walking? I don't know why I'm getting this for you right now, but it feels like this is what Pisces maybe needs to hear or wants to do. Is like, if you've been trudging toward a goal, let's get on the helicopter up the mountain now. Maybe it's time. Maybe it's time to pick up the pace because there's a reason, there's a reason you want to be higher than you are. There's a reason you've taken on so much responsibility. And if it's not getting you somewhere, maybe there's a reason to consider what responsibilities what burden can you carry for even the next couple months that's going to get you on that helicopter up to the top of the mountain, whatever your mountain is. So that's what I have for Pisces. Let me know if that makes sense. I kind of went off at the end there, but it just feels like what you guys are doing. Okay, so that's what I have for Mercury going direct. Don't forget to get my course on the North Node 2 ways. It's a little mini course and it's on sale right now until the 9th at the end of the day. So get it while you can. I mean, you can still get it afterwards, but get it while it's 30% off. And you can learn my unique, different way of reading the North and South Node by sign that is not on my videos. I still go over the modern way, but then I introduce a different way. It's like the course is less than 2 hours. It doesn't take that long to get through. You can do it in an afternoon or whatever. Click the link below to get it. It's called the North Node 2 ways. And I hope you guys have a beautiful week. I will be probably doing a live maybe tomorrow or the next day. So stay tuned for the channel for that. And I will see you beautiful souls in the next